Okay, Bruchim Aboyim. Welcome everybody to another edition of DAF Discussions. We'd like to thank our sponsor, RobotVacuums.com, who generously agreed to sponsor this program, this chus for full shalema for RobotVacuums.com. Anybody that needs a robot vacuum, robot mop, or a mix, go there, Robot Vacuums, everything you need. You'll find all the necessary information. It's an excellent website. I highly recommend. You know, nowadays, people like being lazy, so this is a great asset to help you being lazy. The mops and robot vacuums you have by yourself, so it's definitely something I would recommend. So to get right to the point, we're going to discuss the Bomba Kasha from the Mishne Lamelech. I'm only have Kashas, I'm only have good Kashas, bad Kashas. This is Lekula, what's called a Bomba Kasha. Nishtama Kasha. This is a Kasha. Medina de Gemara. Shailas, you have a case, you have a suffix. Oh, thank you very much. If anybody watching, you should not make a main unless it's too late. Anyway, so the shailas, if you have a case, you have a suffix. You're not sure what day. If it's Yom Yudal or Yom Tezvav, Krachim are Mekavim Chayma, they do it on Tezvav. The shailas, you're not sure what to do. So the Rambam paskins that you have to lane on both days. You do it on Say Yudal, Say Tezvav, Nisaf. What was that?
The town of Prague.
Oh, Prague. Interesting. Yeah, Prague. Exactly. That's a great example. Prague. There was a big shiloh. We're not going to get into that right now. Exactly. What are shilohs? What's considered a suffix or not? I can't even find this inside right now. To be honest with you. Oh, I found it right. Okay. And it's a shiloh. So the Rambam says you do it on both days. Halach Yudal. Perak Aleph Halach Yudal. The Rambam says Irshu suffix and you do it. Makes Mekavis Chayma as if you Prague like our producer said. You lay it on both days. So state in Rambam. Now the Ran brings down. I mean, the Mishnah brings down a Ran. Brings down the Goinu. The Goinu say not like that. The Goinu say. Wait, I should mention. The Rambam says you make a bracha only on the first day. Make a bracha only on the first day. The Rambam is a different sukkah. Maybe we'll give a different share about it. In other words, you do misafik, you only do a bracha on the first day. We're not talking about that right now. Now the Goinu say you lay only on the first day. Now the Mishnah Lamelech quotes a Ran, and the Ran in Megillah explains Pshat in the Goinu. Look there for us. He says because why the first day, maybe the second day. And he has another kasha. What about, and also the suffix Darbon Lakuli? So like this, Ashkil Tam is just suffix shakel, the second teretz in the Ran. Even let's say it's a 50-50, if it's Yudal or Tezvav, have a suffix shel devreim ulakula. Etzim you should say suffix Darbon. Let's say it's a 50-50. If you don't say there's a ray, you'll say it's a 50. First he says it's a ray. He wants to go with ray Yudal. And he said let's say it's a 50-50. So if it's a 50-50, suffix Darbon Lakula, you shouldn't do it. It's like they should be putter and gansen, nun sepayter b'shneim, but then you become putter from both. Batal mimenu bevadei mikra Megillah. You're for sure going to be mevatel mikra Megillah. If you want to say
the teretz of right?
He says, right, it's another teretz, I'm not sure. Because of kavua, I think that's the issue. It's a problem with kavua. No, it's not really right. You should think it's kavua. It's a separate, so you'll get into that later. Maybe next thing, if our sponsor agrees. So he says, so you can pattern entirely. So therefore, what do? You can't do a pattern entirely. So therefore, you land on the first day. So why the first? Maybe the second. So the Mishnah Lamelech says because you're not sure which one. You do the first one because mitzvah b'li yod chal dach. Take up Shabbat mitzvah little trust which came in. You do the first one. Now you do the first one. Come the second day, it's already ready. Now there's no problem with being accurate legamri. You don't have that issue because you know you did it yesterday, so it's only a suffix. If you're not going to say if you suffix your kula. Fact the Mishnah Lamelech abom bekash that the Gemara in Pesachim has machlokes. Where do you do a seva by the daled cases? You definitely only do a mikra adin on two cases. So there's machlokes in the Gemara. The first two or the last two. So the Gemara, we don't know which ones. So you do it on all four. So around 5 us. Maybe why don't you say Safik Darbon Lakula? You should do it on non Fit Duran. And Fit Duran, because if you're going to do Safik Darbon Lakula, you're going to be Eikrin and Gansen. So you can be Eikrin and Gansen. So you can't be Eikrin and Gansen. So what do you do? So he's like, we don't know which one to pick. Am I missing something? We don't know which one to pick. So Zok Duran, should I continue with something happening? I don't know. My audience is. This is laughing very loud. So Duran, do I need a tissue? Everything's good. Yeah. Making sure everything. I look fine. I'm watching the video myself. So Duran that. So you don't know which one to do. First do the last do. So you do everything. What is going on? What's the difference? The same exact source. The same law. You can't be Eikid mitzvah and Gansen. So by you can't be Eikid. You don't know which one to choose. You choose everything. And here it says you can't be Eikid mitzvah again, so you do the first two, and then once you do the first two, now you get to go. Shem Yerachim, what's going on over here? It's Mamash Azab Bombakash. This is the It's like Mishnah Teretz. Teretz the one we call the Baalebatish mehalchim. So there, that there's two separate svaras, but upon him that by Dalet Kosses, the word is you don't want to be Iker from everyone. If you're not going to do a Seba to Shalom, it applies to every single person. Dalet Kosses. So if you're going to be Iker, Dalet Kosses, if you're going to say you don't do a Seba, no one's going to be, universally, this Dalet Kosses is going to be gone. Mashenkin here, the mitzvah of Megillah, you're not being Iker. People are being doing it. In this particular town, you're not going to do it, so therefore you're not really being Iker and Gans. So if so, but the Svar of Iker does apply here, because then don't do it at all. Because Duran does, you shouldn't do it. Duran says that you can't do it because you're going to be Iker. So Mishne Malch says it's not clear exactly what I'm not going to be Magder exactly. He's like there that type of Iker, it's a smaller thing. It's enough if you do it the first day. There's two Svaras of not being Iker. Not being Iker from Gans Kal Yisrael means so then you got to do it. You got to do it both. But if anybody's not being Iker, it's a Shaila in you. So then it's not going. It's enough to mechayiv you to do it the first 2 days, but it's not going to mechayiv you to do it. To do the first day, it's not going to be you do Yudal and Tezvav. Because according to this Lomdish, if you don't have this Svara, you should go back to Safed Darbana and Kula and just don't do it at all. So, you're worried about being Aikid Mitzvah. You're not being Aikid Mitzvah, so you should do the whole thing. So, you're worried about being Aikid Mitzvah a little bit for you, but it's not. That's Mishne. That's Teretz number 1. Teretz number 2, we're going to call the traditional approach. We're calling it traditional because it's old-fashioned. Anybody could have said this. A Rishon could have said this mehalchim. There's in Teretz Chesed based in the Yerushalmi. And the Teretz Chesed means on Yerushalmi, the Goyin, the guy who means on Yerushalmi, that's the Rambam. Yerushalmi says in Shkolin that if even a Ben Tezvav who lanes the Megillah on Yudaleh, but the Eved Yiyetz. So that's Chandran. Rather, the exact same sugya. Both of them are as far as you can't be Iker, so theoretically you should have had to do both, just like by Dalet Kosses, you should have to do both. They said, but it comes Megillah, you do the first one, but there's no point in doing both because you Yiyetz already. So the Yerushalmi holds even a Ben Tezvav who lanes it on Yudaleh, he's Yiyetz. So you're not going to tell me to do it if you're Vada Yetzer. There's no way that doesn't make any sense to do it again. Once you're already Yetzer. Teretz number 2. Okay, Teretz number 3. We'll say over the Yeshivish Yankiv, which I think I termed it the Lomdish approach. Yankiv says a Gavaldi Gizach. He wants to time that. Maybe it was let's see. Mark it down over here. Okay, so he wants to say a Gavaldi Gizach that there's something called Cheskas Chiv. By Dalet Kosses, you're vada mechuyev in the mitzvah of Dalet Kosses. Now, if you don't do a Haseba the right way, you're not yet to the mitzvah of Dalet Kosses. So look, there is a chazaka, you're mechuyev in Dalet Kosses. So in order, you can't be to be mitzi from the chazaka, you're going against the chazaka basically. See, I was yetzer already. So you do the first 2, but since you have the chazaka, you're mechuyev in Dalet Kosses, so you got to do the whole thing. Masha'en came by Mikra Megillah, it comes, let's say, Yom Tezvav, you're already laying Yom Dalet. You don't have a chazaka you're chiv. You have no idea if you're mechuyev Yom Tezvav. Maybe no chiv b'chal Tezvav, maybe chiv Yudaled. So therefore, you're not going against the Cheskas Chiv. Here it's a suffix if there's a Chiv at all. By Megillah, Shaila is on Tezvav, each day is a suffix, is there a Chiv or not? Masha'en came by Mikra Megillah, by Dalet Kosses, Zevada Chiv Dalet Kosses. The Shaila is how you doing the mitzvah, if you yetz the Chiv. But you're going against the Chazaka. The Chazaka says you're mechuyev in the thing. You have a Cheskas Chiv. So the Yeshivish Yankiv, since you have a Cheskas Chiv, Memela, you got to be, you can't, in order to go against the Cheskas Chiv, you have to do all 4.
So is this as far as Akira that you can't be Akira?
You're going against the Chazaka. Basically, it's a stronger, yeah.
It's not. He's using the Lomdish of Akira or no?
What do you mean by Akira? Oh, you mean, yeah, I was thinking that.
I'm thinking maybe it's like
yeah, he's definitely going at the Ryan. You do that so Paiskim, Cheskas Chiv, Dem Cheskas Isser. Imitzin, Dover, Cheskas Chiv, Suffolk. Mayad Gimish at Tzorach Lishna. I think it's more like this. That I think what he's trying to say is that once the Chachomim, because of the Svar of Akira, because of the Ran Svar, the Chachamim couldn't be Akira the mitzvah, that made it your mechuyev now. Now the Shal is, what do you do with the Chiv? So now the Chiv, that gives you a Cheskes Chiv. I think you have to come, if not for that, then you have, he's not going to, because you have something to burn on Kula, I guess he's the Chayr. Chayy's not arguing with that. Chayyr, that's what he's saying. Something on Kula should have been a good Svar of Etzim. Even with because there's no, even though there's a Cheskes Chiv. Akira says now Mechayev, but once Mechayev now brings back Cheskes Chiv. Yeah, Chayyr, that's what he's doing. Now, we're going to say another Mahalach. We'll call the Yeshivish approach. Also, the Teretz Chesed says it. And the Stipler. Basically, he's medamit to the sugya of Shnei Shvilin. There's a chiluk between if someone's Baba Vas Achas or Baba Vas Achas. So he says that Dalet Kosses, the whole, right now, tonight, you have a Chiv all 4. Chiv Dalet Kosses. So it's Kili coming to the Rav. The Stipler in Brachas is a big Arichas. He's talking to the Gemara. So it's Kili coming right now. What should I do? So you can't. Now to Tarta the Sasser, you can't tell me to do just the first 2 and not the second and not the last 2, basically, because you don't know which one to pick. You can't. There's no chiluk. Comes to me today. What are you going to tell me? Should I do just the first 2? No. So this is a Stipler and the Teretz Chesed. They both say this. that since you're coming with Vasachas, like Duran said, it's Svara bets. You don't know which one to pick. So he says that's Svara of Duran. You know which one to pick. It's only Svara if they're all negay right now. He said, come right now, come at the Rav. What should I do with Seibon? It's Lyle Pesach. So the first two, why the first two over the second two? Doesn't make any sense. So you say you got to do the whole thing. That's some. So yeah, it doesn't really depend. As I said, the order is the chiv is there now. Right now I have a chiv al kaisis. So my chiv al kaisis, and and now since I don't know which one I got to do a save, I got to do a save on the whole thing. I shake and mikra Megillah each day is its own shiloh. Yudalid tezvav. So comes Yudalid, do I have to do it? Yeah, you have to do it. Mikra Megillah. Why? I suffer Darbonam because that's a Torah Maker. Because if you're not going to do it, you're going to a mitzvah. You can't be a whole mitzvah in Gansen. But then it comes Yom Tezvav. Now there's a new shiloh. Do I have to do it? No. Now you don't have to do it. I'm Maker. Maybe I was behind me yesterday. So basically, that's a stiples teretz, the Yeshivish approach. That Dal Kaisis, the Shaila is all on the same night. So therefore, as a Quran, you have to mechayiv all four because you know which one to choose, and you can't tell me to do the first two or the second two because I know in front of me I see all four. Mashake and Megillah, you can handle each day separately. So comes Yom Yudal, come to the Rav. Do I have to do Megillah right now? It's like Chav Darbon Lakula. It's like no, no Chav Darbon Lakula because it says Darbon. You're never gonna be learning. So you got to learn today. Today you got to go. Comes tomorrow, you say, do I have to learn today? Say, Chav Darbon Lakula. You can't Chav Darbon. You're not gonna do it. What do you mean? Maybe I did it yesterday. So since it's each day, it's its own child. You can judge each day separately. As I state, Stiple will speak after. See that a lot of strange faces. They're not mamash mas into this. So. Yeah, so it's like, their own shiloh, but since you're mechayiv at all four right now, the first night, each two have their own shiloh, but since the chiyav is now you're mechayiv at all four, so yeah, it's each state in rank. Now, Henach question Chassidish there is I took the Benai Saskin. He says Mahal, it's not so Chassidish, but he says this. I guess that makes it Chassidish. You could clarify Chassidish in the Gaver the Hefza. He wants to taina that why didn't the pasuk of Lo Yaver by Megillah? So he says that's there's a shiloh. You could have done a Sveika Diyem. Megillah, let's say in Choslar, it's why do you say Sveika Diyem? Because that's you should have said Sveika Diyem. The pasuk of Lo Yaver is Mechadish that exerts a cost by Megillah that you don't say that even that in a matzav of Suffolk that by Sveika Diyem you don't do 2 days. Lo Yaver tells me that you only do Tezvav. You can't go past Tezvav, even though let's say you have an ear which is Mukaf Chayma in Choslar, it's Vada Mukaf Chayma, say Shushan, and then he ends up being a Sveika Diyem. So he says no. There's no such thing as Sveika Diyem. So that's a special Xeris HaKosov of Megillah that you don't have to do both Mitzad Suffolk. So then Megillah. Dal Kaisis, there's no such thing. So Dal Kaisis, the Etzem you should have to do the whole entire thing. Why? Because each thing, because Saved Rabban Lakula can't be Ergin the Mitzvah. Because Saved Rabban Lakula, but I'm going to be Ergin the Mitzvah. But it's a special thing when it comes to Megillah, you're not mechayiv to be Yaitz, you're allowed to be Ergin, you're not mechayiv to be Yaitz Yisvekis. The Torah's Megillah's Machadish that there's no din Sveika Diyem. It's Xeris HaKosov of Megillah. It's his teretz. There's that front handle. Why do you say Sveika Diyem by Megillah? So there, it's Xeris HaKosov of Lo Yav. You can never go over 15. So the pasuk in Megillah is good for telling me that you never ever have to be chayshish with Sveika. Not be chayshish. There's no or Lo Yav or 15. Meshushan, whatever. Yeah. You can't. Lo Yav is telling me you can't go past.
If you're 14,
can't go,
you're 15.
or, can't go past 15.
Even if you're not
no,
14, 15, don't go past 15.
Can't go past 15. It's not telling you can't go past 15. That's like,
for sure. You only lean off
that's Chassidish about. You need to give a cause for that.
Saying that it tells you can't even go past 14.
He's saying who adin, you don't go past anything. He's saying who adin, a new thing. Just like you can't go past 15, misafik, let's say whatever the case. In a case, let's say you have Shushan nowadays, which is a Sveika Diyema, so you do 15 and 16. You do 15. Why should they say? Yeah, we're not sure. Let's say you're not sure what day it is. So you're not. The Xeris HaKosov says you can't. So that's not. That's his uptight, and that's his. The Meis Mechadish. He learns that out of the pasuk.
If 15 is on Shabbos, like they don't read it Sunday.
That's the Chiddush HaPasuk, right? That's where the Yavers come from. But he says also tells me you're not going to Sveika Diyem. You wanted a Chassidish B'Shad. I told you Chassidish B'Shad B'nei Yisachar. Take it out with him. It's in Shar Chiddush Nissen Dalet Bezes and Bez Dalet. Remember, Ayin Shom B'nei Yisachar. Next. Now we're going to go for the Polish B'Shad, which you all know I have a very special place for Polish mehalchim. The Heilige Kosher Glovin is auch the Eretz Tzvi.
Who?
Kosher Glovin, the Rashiv from Chacham el-Blin, Hashem Yikim Dam, he was killed in the war. After Rameh Shapira, he took over the Yeshiva.
He's the one who started the Mishne.
Could be, yeah, makes sense. The Heilige Kosher Glovin. Simon Nian Dalet. He's up there. He says he's in the news. Okay, I didn't know. It says a Gamal the Gezach. He's bringing down a Magen Avram that says if you have water which is suffik, if it's kosher for Netilas Yadayim. I don't know the case. I didn't check the Magen Avram inside even. Kofun and Tesif Katan Vav. If you have water which is a suffik, if it's kosher for Netilas Yadayim, it's a suffik if it was possible, whatever. It's like suffik Rabban Lakula, so you're allowed to use that. You're allowed to use that water. fact, the Magen Avraham, do you make a bracha on Tilas Yadayim on it? Do you say Safek Brachas Lahakal? Can't make a bracha. You say Mitzad Tilas Yadayim, it's a Safek Rabban Lekula, but Mitzad making a bracha, you shouldn't be able to make a bracha on Mayim, which is Safek, right? You have water which it's Safek if it's possible in Tilas Yadayim. So he comes on Mitzvah, you're not allowed to use this water. Yeah, Safek Rabban Lekula. Tilas Yadayim is the Rabbanon. What? Good child, I don't know. So whatever the case is, there's no, I don't know. Kasha for myself. That's the case. The case is you have water which is Safek. So you're allowed to use it. Halach is you're allowed to use that water for whatever. I think it's even Shulchan how much is more. Okay, so child, do you make a bracha on it? It's in Simon Kofman Tesik on Child is very good. You're allowed to use it because that's a Safek Rabbanon, but brachas is not a Safek Deraisa, it's Safek Leisaser. When it comes to making a bracha, it's a whole different Safek Brachas Lakal. So the halacha, Misvar, you should have said you could use it. Mitzad Tilas Yadayim, you're allowed to use it. You don't make the bracha.
That's where
whatever the reason is, Pashas don't say Sasser. In brachas, yeah, I've seen it in Shas, but yeah, he says he says that he says they're going to Shas about Asr Lechel Blei Bracha, something else. But we should have said Misvar that if you have something water which is Safek, you're allowed to use the water, but you're not allowed to make a bracha because each thing has its own thing. Hilchos Tilas Yadayim, you go with the klal Safek Rabbanon Lekula, so you're allowed to wash your hands with that water. It's Safek Rabbanon. But Hilchos brachas, then you have dinner Safek Brachas Lakal, which means you don't make a bracha on a Safek, right? That's what it means. So you should not be able to. That you make a bracha. Why? Because Safek Rabbanon Lekula is a psak vade. So I'm vada yoytze my mitzvah Tilas Yadayim right now, so I can make a bracha. Zushtet in Magen Avraham, and it says the Neit B'Sharm is the Hamdan. He says it's in the first. Tosis is up there. It's like the Kasha Glover and Tosis Menachos Samach Vav. He says you let him count serious Eimer Ben Hashmashas when it's because Safek Rabbanon Lekula. You let him make a bracha at Tosis. Tosis says Safek Rabbanon Lekula. You let him count serious Eimer. Make a bracha. I Safek Rabbanon. Teretz says because once you make Mekayim the mitzvah Rabbanon. So it's a vade. With serious aimer, it says going to Rabbanon, I guess. Yeah, I mean it's not Rabbanon because there's no aimer. That's what they're saying. Now, it's over. It's not enough of a teretz. Now you have to mechala to understand the rest. You have to give an introduction. So there's a big difference between the case of Megillah and the case of Dalet Kaisis. Dalet Kaisis is two separate childs. In other words, each two cases is this mechayiv and is this mechayiv in. If it's on the first two, this mechayiv. There's two separate childs. It happens to be that we know. Only one of them is mechayiv, but it's a total. It happens to be. It's not not like this. So when it comes to Megillah, when you have one child, are you yaitz in Megillah? So you lay in the first day because the Ran says you can't be yaitz in the first day. Now that I lay in the first day, I was yaitz b'teres vade. Megillah's D'Rabbanan. I was yaitz in my mitzvahs Megillah because I had a suffix. I was mekayim the mitzvah. I was yaitz b'teres vade. But when it comes to Dalet Kaisis, let's say I drink the first two with a seibo. But now I come to the second two. You're not going to say I was yaitz in a mitzvah vade because it's two different mitzvahs. It's two different shilas. Two separate shilas. Now it's a shilah is there a chiv seiba on the first two? Is a chiv seiba on the last two? So when it comes to the last two, you can't say I was vade yaitz in a mitzvah seiba because that was a different mitzvah seiba. That was mitzvah in the first two cups. What does that have to do with these two cups? So the Kasha Glover murdik. So when it comes to Megillah, I was zich yaitz in a mitzvah. So Mamela, you don't have to lay it on Tezvav because you yaitz vade as you Magen Avraham because Safek Rabbanon Lekula said you zich yaitz in a mitzvah. Right? Doesn't make a difference. You're Yitzhak Mitzvah's Megillah. You don't know what your mitzvah is. You're a Safek Tezvav or Yadal. You don't know. You're not sure if you're Yadal. You have a Chiyuv Megillah. You're not sure when the Chiyuv is. So since you landed in a massive of Safek Yadal, it's once a 50% chance you're Yitzhak. So the 50% chance makes it you were Vadai Yitzhak Mitzvah Hafal. That's where poem comes in handy. How much Meridic stuff. Now what are we holding? What are we missing now? Yeshivish. We said the super Yeshivish there. It's his name Bracha. He says I'll pee this similar gan. He wants to say that when it comes to the Dalet Kaisis, it's a shiloh. It's two separate shilohs. In other words, it's a shiloh. The first two each one has their own shiloh. So I think this is I think the Rebbe means to say this. He doesn't explain himself very well, but basically, when it comes to Megillah, so there's one shiloh. What is this chi of Megillah? Is it Yadal or Tezvav? So that's when you say Safek Rabbanon Lekula, you shouldn't do it at all. But now you have the Svara, you can't be accurate. So that says no. Since you can't be accurate, so you got to do. Now you have to do it. You have to do it on both. Forget it. Forget about that. Okay, I don't know what he's talking about. Next, the Krum Mahalach is from Reb Heinach. You want to say it yourself? I should say it over from you. You were saying basically that this far you can't be Iker mitzvah based on the Kasha Glover. Basically, it's two separate. It's two separate mitzvahs. So each one it's two separate shilas. The first two cases is a shilah. Am I being mekayim? Is this a mechayiv? So the shilah is that can't be like this. So you got to do it. Now come to the next two. Is this mechayiv? Also, you can't be like this because it's a separate thing. When it comes to Mikra Megillah, it's one big shilah. When is this chiv? Is it Yudal or Tezvav? So you do it once. So now you're not being like a mitzvah. You did it once. But when it comes, there's no two separate things. It's all one big thing. Very good. Thank you very much. Now, if my producer could like to request. I'd like to thank everyone for listening and see you again later.